In our last investigation, we exposed the zero stock trap, proving how automakers and dealerships are intentionally discontinuing the vital analog parts needed to keep 20-year-old trucks on the road. We warned you to stockpile these components before they completely vanished from warehouses. Right on cue, real-world confirmation flooded our comments. Viewer David Heine shared that his 2005 Silverado diesel suffered a glow plug controller failure, leaving both him and his mechanic unable to locate a replacement anywhere on Earth. Another viewer, Graham Verrett, is battling the exact same issue with his 2000 Toyota 2.8 diesel, discovering that the part number on his factory component literally does not exist in dealership databases anymore. This corporate starvation tactic is real, and it is actively bricking perfectly functional vehicles. But then, the master mechanics in our community spoke up, revealing the ultimate unbreakable loophole to the modern automotive monopoly. When Detroit stops manufacturing parts, smart truck owners do not scrap their rigs, they bypass the entire system. Today, we are exposing the aftermarket rebellion. Mechanics are intentionally ripping factory computers out of their trucks, hot-wiring their own controls, and using aftermarket engineering to make their vehicles permanently immune to the dealership cartel. Let us start with the brain of the operation, the engine control module. When the factory computer in your early 2000s truck finally fries, the dealership parts counter will smile and tell you that the component is no longer available. They fully expect you to give up, surrender your keys, and walk directly onto the showroom floor to finance a brand new model. But as viewer Stuart Y pointed out, there is a much better path. The answer lies with standalone systems like Holley and Haltech. Smart mechanics are abandoning factory computers entirely and installing independent engine management systems. You completely rip out the crusty 20-year-old factory wiring harness, pull the dead factory computer off the firewall, and drop in a modern, self-tuning standalone system like a Holley Terminator. When you do this, you achieve absolute vehicular independence. A standalone system does not contain a cellular modem, it does not track your location, and it never reports your fuel metrics to a corporate cloud server. You control the spark, you control the fuel. If a sensor goes bad, you simply plug in your own laptop, read the data yourself, and buy a cheap universal replacement sensor from the aftermarket. However, here is the technical reality check the dealership hopes you never figure out. If you rip out the factory engine computer, your electronic automatic transmission, like a GM 4L60 or a Ford 4R70W, instantly loses its brain. Without computer commands, it will default to maximum line pressure and lock itself into third gear, commonly known as limp mode. The blue-collar fix that smart mechanics use is wiring in an independent, standalone transmission controller. Or better yet, they perform a manual swap, installing a heavy-duty manual transmission with a physical clutch pedal, completely severing the digital umbilical cord. The rebellion goes much deeper than just the engine computer. It extends directly to the physical hardware inside the cabin. In our last investigation, we warned you that physical ignition lock cylinders are being phased out in favor of hackable, proprietary push-button smart fobs. The comment section fired back with the ultimate old-school solution. Viewer Knowles wrote that a broken brass ignition key module could easily be replaced with a basic on-off toggle switch. He is entirely right in theory, but there is a dangerous technical trap. If you try to hotwire a 1999 Silverado or an F-150 with a basic hardware store toggle switch, the engine will crank, fire up, and then die exactly 2 seconds later. This happens because of factory anti-theft immobilizers, like GM's Passlock or Ford's PAT system. The factory computer is actively looking for a very specific electrical resistance from the microchip embedded inside the original key. If it does not detect that exact resistance, it immediately cuts off the fuel injectors. To bypass this, mechanics take the steering column cover off, trace the ignition wires, and solder in a 10-cent resistor that perfectly matches the ohm value of the factory key, completely fooling the security module. Once that is done, you can safely wire up heavy-duty marine-grade toggle switches and a push-button start right on the dashboard. You just replaced a discontinued, highly expensive locking cylinder with a cheap hardware store switch and a 10-cent piece of copper. The exact same logic applies to your cabin comfort. The factory air conditioning and heater control modules in these older trucks are failing at an alarming rate, and the delicate plastic gears inside the electronic blend door actuators are stripping out. Viewer G. Willie offered the perfect engineering response in the comments, noting that rotary air conditioning switches are essentially just simple resistors, meaning someone can easily install an alternative set of on-off switches and a basic resistor to run the system. This is the mindset of a true owner. An air conditioning blower motor is just a basic electric fan operating on direct current voltage. If the proprietary factory climate control module dies and costs $400 used on eBay, you bypass it. You wire a universal rheostat dial directly to the blower motor resistor. It might not look like a factory luxury interior, but it blows freezing cold air, costs $20 in wiring, and will never require a factory software update to function. But what happens when the factory electronic fuel injection system is simply too far gone? What happens when the wiring harness is completely dry-rotted, the factory sensors are completely obsolete, and you do not want to spend thousands of dollars on a standalone aftermarket computer? You execute the nuclear option. A viewer named Phantom Charger 568 stated that if things get that bad, you should forget the electronics entirely. Throw a carburetor and a distributor on the engine, or just gut the whole mess and drop in a pre-1986 small block Chevy V8. This is the absolute final boss of the right to repair movement, the carburetor swap. Now, any master mechanic will tell you that you cannot just drop a traditional analog distributor into a modern LS or Vortec engine block from the early 2000s, because they do not have a physical distributor hole. They utilize individual electronic coil packs. To pull off the carburetor swap, you have two distinct choices. You can buy a specialized aftermarket ignition controller box to fire the spark plugs while the carburetor handles the fuel delivery. Or you can do what the true purists do. Gut the engine bay entirely and drop in an old-school, pre-1986 small block Chevy V8. When you make this move, you erase the need for a microchip entirely. A carburetor operates purely on uninterrupted fluid dynamics and engine vacuum. It pulls fuel into the engine based entirely on the physical velocity of the air moving through the barrels. There is no mass airflow sensor to fail, no electronic throttle body to throw your truck into limp mode, and no idle air control valve to stick open. As another viewer brilliantly pointed out, if a gasket fails on a carburetor in the middle of nowhere, you can literally trace a new one out of a cardboard cereal box, cut it out with a pocket knife, bolt it back together, and drive all the way home. You cannot do that with a fried silicon microchip. The automotive industry thinks they have us completely cornered. They believe that by systematically shutting down the parts supply for these golden era trucks, we will eventually surrender, walk into their showrooms, and accept a new reality as digital subscribers rather than physical owners. They have drastically underestimated the American mechanic. We are not just passive consumers, we are engineers, fabricators, and natural problem solvers. If the dealership refuses to sell us a replacement part, the aftermarket will build a better one. If the factory computer dies, we will wire in our own independent brain. And if the electronics fail completely, we will gladly rip them out and go back to mechanical fuel and spark. The aftermarket is our final line of defense against the digital cage. The tools and the parts exist to keep your analog truck on the road for the next 50 years, as long as you have the grit to learn how to wire them. What is the most extreme bypass or mechanical modification you have done to keep an older vehicle on the road? Did you drop a carburetor onto a modern engine block? Or wire up your own custom ignition system? Sound off in the comments below, because your ingenuity is writing the survival guide for the rest of us. If you refuse to be starved out by the modern auto industry, hit the subscribe button to join Engine Forensic. Keep turning your own wrenches, support the aftermarket, and we will see you in the next investigation.